Hello, folks. So I wanted to talk about transactions. So this is not an economics 101 and it's not intended to be an economics 101. But I thought I would do a little bit of a different video, talk about buying or selling an instrument and some of the things that I've come across. A couple of main points, and sometimes I'll touch on economics and things of that nature. So let's say you're thinking about buying an instrument, in my case, a guitar. To me, there are three things, and there's a bunch of subtopics to kind of evaluate. And again, I'm not talking about the guitar in and of itself. How good is it? Do you need it? And things of that nature. So I've done videos like that. I'm just talking about the actual transaction itself. So I think the first thing that you have to concern yourself is valuation. And we'll get into that a little bit. The third thing is where to buy or sell the instrument in and of itself. I should say the second thing. And then the third thing is professionalism. All right. So those are the three topics I want to talk about. One, valuation. Two, where to buy or sell it. And the third thing is professionalism. Let's talk about the first thing, valuation. At the end of the day, it's a transaction. You're going to pay somebody X amount of dollars and then you're going to get something back. So you've got to know what is the value of it. Same thing as far as like when you're selling it, you want to sell your, Gibson, your, Eastman, things of that nature. So when I talk about valuation, there's a lot of resources for you to obviously look up how much is it worth. eBay, Reverb, Gbase, Craigslist, seeing how folks are pricing it. I think the best resource is probably Reverb, because what you want to look at is not so much what people are asking for it. People can ask whatever they want as far as like the dollar amount. At the end of the day, is how much is the consumer willing to pay for it. So what you obviously want to look at is what did it end up selling. So you'll see things where people are asking $2,500 and there's nothing that's been sold for $2,500. Everything goes for $1,000 or $1,500 or things of that nature. So use the online resources to kind of have a ballpark of determination of what that value is that you want to pay for it or you want to sell it for. Now, when I talk about valuation, I always think about overvaluing and undervaluing. Let's talk about overvaluing, which tends to happen more often than not, especially when you're dealing with individual sellers as opposed to third-party sites. Now, what I see happening a lot is people overvalue certain things, because guitars, for the most part, especially when I'm talking about electric guitars in this case, or electrical instruments, they're component instruments. So you've got pickups, necks, tuners, even pick guards, and even something like setups. So when you sell something and when you buy something, you're not buying the pickups. Okay, I'm not buying the warmer neck that you decided to upgrade it with. I'm not buying the Ron Ellis pickup that you decided to put in something. If you're dumb enough to leave that in and you spent $500 or $800 for Ron Ellis pickups that you threw in a Squire, then so be it. Okay, I'm not going to pay for that. Okay, and don't expect people to do that. So generally speaking, you don't get your money back for those upgrades that you're getting, pickups, necks, tuners. I've seen people even write about the guitar guy that's got a setup. Well, that's part of that's like getting a checkup. Okay, you shouldn't charge people more because you set up the guitar up. I'm expecting a playable instrument if I'm buying it. So that seems to be the problem. It's more overvaluing than undervaluing. Now, undervaluing. Be careful about that too. A lot of people want a quick sell. And I've walked away from deals that I thought were too good to be true, because I always think there's going to be a story behind that. Either you don't own it, the stuff is high, or it's really, I'm going to have some issues. So you do have to price accordingly. I'm not going to expect to go online and see, an Gibson ES175D or something for $1,500. That just doesn't happen. Even if you're hard up for cash, you should know what the thing is worth. A couple thousand more $1,000 than that. So be careful about undervaluing things for a quick sale. So enough said about valuation. The second thing I wanted to talk about is where to buy or sell. By that, I think of three categories about where to buy or sell. And I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of all of them in terms of that. So one is an individual i.e. selling to a friend. Okay, and I'm smiling at that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. The second one is selling, again, to an individual, but somebody you don't know at all. Okay. And the third, which I believe is actually the preferable to some instance, and I'll explain that, is selling to a third party, whether that be the dreaded Guitar Centers of the world, eBay's, Reverb, G-Base, Sweetwater, and sometimes, but a third party. And I think more about a business from that sense. So let's talk about the first one, selling to an individual or friend. So there's some pros and cons of that. So one of the pros is obviously it's a friend. You may be helping somebody out that needs the cash. Two, it may be you're more familiar with the instrument because you're buying it from somebody you might have played it before, you got access to that stuff. So the opportunity to play it, to have played it, things of that nature might exist, and it might not exist in the other two areas. The cons of that is that if you run into some issues, and this happens sometimes, it's very hard or much more difficult in some much more delicate situation to deal with somebody that's a friend or a colleague. So it's like caveat emptor, buyer beware in all of these scenarios. An individual you don't know. Okay. Pros of that is it becomes just a pure transaction. The you can look at reviews of the person. The cons of that is you probably don't have an opportunity to try the instrument. You don't know if the person's trustworthy. You don't know the true history of the instrument and things of that nature. So there's some pros about that. Another pros of that is because you don't have to worry about the humanistic aspect of it, and it's a pure transaction, you could just be more business oriented and get it done. You say, I want to pay $500, I want to pay $2,000. You don't have to worry about hurting people's feeling. It's a deal at the end of the day from time to time. The third one is third-party sites. Or in this case, I'm not talking about going to Reverb and even buying from an individual. I'm talking about buying from or selling from a store. I'm going to use Guitar Center. The pros of that, especially Guitar Center, whether you like it or not, is the 45-day return policy. None of the people, whether it's your friend or whether it's somebody you don't know, are going to give you 45 days. Okay? They're just not. So it's a cold calculating move. It helps them and it hurts them from that perspective. The cons of that is most people think they're not getting a deal when they're trying to sell something through a store because the store has to make money. They have to advertise. Another pro, though, is the foot traffic that you're going to get in the store that you don't necessarily get on the clicks and through. So there are some pros in buying through the third parties. And even the sites like eBay, you get some level of protection. Reverb gets some level of protection. So they all have some level of protection that you might get. So where to buy or sell, those are the things. Individuals, individuals you don't know, and what I call third parties, more specifically stores, not individuals from that perspective. The third thing that I want to talk about is the key to me, professionalism, that people don't talk about. At the end of the day, remember it's about respect. And here I mean it on both. If you're buying from a Guitar Center, from a Sweetwater, or from an individual, treat the people you buy from, and I treat the people I sell or buy things from, with courtesy. Okay? Nothing will turn me off a deal more than rudeness. Okay? Because I don't need the money. I don't want to sell it, nor do I need to buy it. Okay? Because there are enough people selling or buying things that you can go do the transaction with somebody else, right? I'm going to give you an example. I was interested in buying a guitar from reverb.com. I live in Massachusetts. The seller lives in Connecticut. I have a son who goes to school out in Connecticut, right? So he was also asking for like $150 for, to ship the product. So I'm like, well, I don't want to pay $150. I can pick it up when I'm going to see my son in Connecticut, or it's like an hour and a half drive and stuff like that. So, and then from that perspective. So I referenced that to the seller, and the seller sent me back an email. No, I don't want to do it. It wasn't what he said, it's the way he said it. Well, I don't want to do a transaction in a parking lot. If you're interested in this product, make an offer and I'll ship. And it was just the tone. And I can tell, you know what? I don't want to buy something from you. It's just, you don't know, you didn't ask the question. And I get it, for safety reasons, you might not want to do it. And I've had people say that. It was the manner that I got the response back that was a turnoff. And at the end of the day, we all work hard for our money. And if somebody mistreats you or doesn't treat you with respect, or you're perceived that way, remember, you're buying, you're expending money that you've worked really hard for. You're entitled to walk away from that, okay? So it's not just that. From a seller's perspective, I love to sell to people that really understand the instrument and can appreciate it for. Some of the best feelings I've ever gotten wasn't that I made money off the deal. And a lot of times I don't make money off a deal. I don't do this buy or sell things to make money or anything like that. I remember selling Tajima Telecaster to a gentleman who had seen me demo it on my channel. And I hand delivered the this to him because he didn't have a car and he lived in Cambridge. I found a case that I had that was a hard case, and I included in there. And he was so happy. I drove to him because he couldn't get to he could only take public transportation, and it was during like a snowstorm and things like that. It was only like a $220 deal or $200. I cut him a break like that. It made me feel good. So be professional and be courteous to your fellow, buyers or sellers from that perspective. So there you have it. Sorry for the long message, but I just one of those things about when you're buying and selling an instrument, other than the value in and of itself of the instrument that you want to play, some things to consider. So hopefully you got some insights from this. All right, then. Again, as usual, when you get that instrument, set it up, and what do? Practice and practice some more. Thanks again.